Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. I am Amy, along here with my sister Molly. We help high-achieving women increase their income, but most importantly, their impact. We are neighbors, sisters, and business partners. We have built 8-figure businesses together, traveled the world together, raised our children together, mentored thousands of men and women together, and it's all because we have a penthouse mindset. We aim for the top, and we show others how to empower themselves to peel back the layers and truly step into their greatness and calling. Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse, where we help high-achieving women increase their income, but also their impact. My name is Amy Mosser, and this is my sister,
Molly Kroeker, and I get to introduce our guest. We went to college together. We were in the same sorority at Nebraska Wesleyan. I knew her as Amy Husenfeld, but the world will know her as Amy Joyce. And I'm so excited. Friends, she literally has, there's 900 stories to her life, her young life already. So we're just going to see where this takes us. But Amy, I love the story of your parents. I love how you grew up. Take us back a little bit to just Amy, Lincoln, Nebraska, just a little bit of your story about growing up with older siblings.
Thank you so much, Molly and Amy. I'm excited to share some stories and see what happens here. And thank you so much for inviting me to join you. Yeah, so grew up in little Lincoln, Nebraska on Franklin Street. And I had a really interesting family dynamic in that I have 3 older siblings, but they were mostly grown by the time I came around. So I had the siblings / 3 older moms and lived an only child life. So lots of people in charge of telling me what to do and all of the above. You know, I grew up with parents who just had an incredible head on their shoulders and level of maturity. You know, my mom had already raised 3 girls. So,
like
we think about
right?
Independently. Yes. Yeah.
Like as a solo parent.
As a solo parent,
In
she
the
worked.
whatever days, 60s?
Yes, in like the 50s and 60s. Yeah. And she worked multiple jobs. She did what she had to do. She made a penny stretch a mile. And the girls never really knew, right? Like until later what she went through. But this woman, just an incredible pillar of strength and resilience, and you never saw her sweat. Like she just kept it together. And I think that's where I get my never panic from, even though I think I learned it from a music director. I learned it from my mom. Never panic, right? Like life gets hard, but it doesn't get easier to manage if you are panicking about something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that is one of my favorite things about you, Amy. From the day I met you at our sorority, you are like even keel and always have a smile on your face. You can just handle anything. You can handle anything with such grace. And
they say, sorry, that an emotion lasts 90 seconds. And I think I just learned this later in life. I think you must have just known that when you were a toddler, Amy, like you figured that out quickly.
Well, thank you. I think I did. And, we model what we see, right? And so growing up, seeing that in my mom and my dad, right? I think my dad was just naturally more stoic about stuff, but mom, no matter what pressures were on her, was just rock solid. And, it doesn't mean that you don't show emotion, right? Like you still show compassion, you can still show that you're frustrated or whatever, but you don't live in it for any length of time, right? You figure out like, how am I going to persevere? How am I going to keep on going without being paralyzed by whatever the situation is, right? So it is a balance, right?
Right.
Ignore your emotions, but don't let them like completely paralyze you.
Yes. Yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of perseverance, that's one of my favorite words is you. Okay. So we're going to, you've had an incredible life of high level jobs. just like your career has been incredible. And then you got pregnant with triplets.
I did. Yes.
And you weren't 29.
No. I was 40. For
And
those
you were
of you,
39.
yes, for those of you who've been pregnant at the age of 35 or higher, that's called advanced maternal age, which I hated that word or
Yeah.
that expression, right? But medically, that's what I was. And, I think I panicked. I remember the ultrasound. So my first ultrasound, there were 2 heartbeats. Came back 2 weeks later, there's 3 heartbeats. And I said, I'm not coming back here anymore. You keep having babies. But no, I remember my husband being thrilled. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I have a career. I don't know if I can physically do this. But then immediately it was like, no, God has blessed us with 3 babies. I'm going to do everything I can to make this a healthy pregnancy, all of it, right? And I went to like the top MFM doctor in Chicago. So we lived in Chicago at the time. And I remember him telling me, like, you have, very high chance of one of your children having Down syndrome. You are almost guaranteed to have preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, all of these things, right? And actually encouraged me to reduce my pregnancy. And like said, absolutely not, right? I am in great physical health. I'm going to do everything I can to have a healthy pregnancy, and you're fired. And so I went and found another doctor, give me the doom and gloom, and was willing to support my journey.
And top doctor in Chicago, top MF. Yeah.
Like on downtown Chicago, across from the Buckingham Fountain, like top. And I said, no, thank you. I don't need your negativity in my life. So
yeah.
So next. And so I found a doctor who supported me, and they kept a great, close eye on me and the babies the whole time. And I, fast forward, had a planned C-section at 35 weeks, which is a long time to carry triplets. And for those of you who don't know, actually almost 36 weeks. And they were all like healthy weight. One of them went to the regular nursery day one. 2 of them spent like a week in the NICU, just feeding and growing. Everybody's got 10 fingers and 10 toes and good. And we were blessed in triplicate. And I just remember, and I wrote that doctor a letter. He never responded back, but I'm sure he read it and told him how things ended. And,
Good for you.
Please think twice before there's this balance of inform of the risks, but, be respectful of people who, really want to go on the journey and support them.
And as she mentioned, things happen in threes for her, good or bad. So after those triplets were born, Amy, and you're working 100 hours a week.
Yeah, I'm working a big job and just got a promotion to call on my company's largest customer in Bentonville, Arkansas. I think you've all heard of Walmart. And so we are, loading up the Honda Odyssey minivan and this giant, 18-wheeler of all of our earthly possessions and driving south to Bentonville. And it was while we were on our way there, my gynecologist called and said, I need you to come in for a follow-up. And I said, well, I'm moving and here's my situation. And he said, I need you to follow up on your last test within the next 30 days, but do not wait any longer. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm sure all of you, well, if you haven't tried to get a new doctor as an adult, like an established patient, like it is not easy and sometimes takes months to get an appointment, right? So I worked through my network, got an appointment with a gynecologist, and turns out that I had high grade cervical cancer, like the really bad kind, very aggressive. And so that's cancer number 1. It happened when the boys were 3 back in 2015, as we're moving to a completely new city. And now I have to organize care and decide, am I doing this in this tiny town? Or am I flying back and forth to Chicago where there's more advanced medical care? What is it? So, my journey kept me here, found an amazing specialist who did his residency at Sloan Kettering. And I caught it early enough that surgery alone got me through the treatment that I needed for that cancer. So definitely blessed in that
Yeah,
respect.
no chemo, no radiation for this first round.
Not for the first one, no, exactly. So fast forward to 2019 and doing my usual annual mammogram, and ladies, please do it. And men, please do it. Right, everyone?
Yeah.
So they found something curious, did a diagnostic mammogram, biopsy, and I had DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ. So again, hello cancer, also early, appears to be contained in the duct. And so I actually had to go all the way through decisions on surgery, treatment without even knowing what stage I was. And I ended up doing a lumpectomy. And that showed that they got all of the cancer, but I had to do radiation. I had to do 20 rounds of radiation on my body. And that was really tough. It was really tough. But thank God I did not have to do chemo because
And
it wasn't
Amy,
in the lymph nodes. Yeah, sorry.
I remember, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second.
Mm.
I remember you being diagnosed because I said, I will come down and help you with the boys.
Mhm.
You have to keep in mind, Amy's parents were advanced age when they had you. And so they're in their 80s
That's
when
right.
you have these triplets. And so as far as like help around the house, that was a little bit of a stretch. And they're also, you're in a different state too. So how did you navigate radiation with your husband not having?
And by the way, the breadwinner, right? Your husband, you
Yeah.
Breadwinner,
chose to have
Yeah,
your
breadwinner,
husband.
your husband is at home with the boys. And I mean, like that to me was like bananas, how 20 days of radiation and continue your full-time job, which is like 2 full-time jobs.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I did my surgery. I decided not to do in our blessed little town because they did not have breast oncologists here, right? So I went to the University of Kansas, had the surgery, and decided to do my radiation treatments locally because my care could still be coordinated from my oncologist at the University of Kansas. So I came back after my short leave for surgery, and I went to work every day. And at 3 o'clock, I left and stopped by Highlands Oncology and had my radiation, and then went home and rinse and repeat every day for almost a month, right? And I remember vividly my bell ringing and just the joy of having friends there, my family, my boys running down the hall to hug me after I rang the bell. And it was just awesome, awesome experience. And I also remember thinking that like I should have physically healed from that in like a month. Just typical me, right? Like,
Right.
let's go. Okay, wrap it up. Let's move on to the next thing. And folks, let me tell you, still dealing with scar tissue, like all the things, Pilates helping. But yeah, I mean, it's a permanent thing for me physically.
Amy, I mentioned at the very beginning that you're a warrior in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we hear of the triplets and the decision you made to leave the top doctor in Chicago. And as you're telling this story and as you're, discussing your cancer journey, you have an intuition, you have an inner confidence that allows you. And I love hearing this. I want other women to hear this because so many times women ignore their intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Again, right? You chose to do your breast care in Kansas and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You did what was best for you. Can you share a little bit about that intuition and how you know to follow it? Because
It's
Yeah.
one of your strong things about you that you probably don't even realize.
yeah.
I don't think I realize or acknowledge it as much as I should, right? Because everyone has a superpower and you have to figure out what that is. Then just, own it. So, I would say for me, comes down to what's best for me, what's best for my family, what's my faith guiding, and then how do I balance that with real life stuff, right? So the radiation, I can't take another month off of work without sacrificing income, right? Now I could have, right? But again, I'm paying the bills. So I found a way to still have my oncologist guide my care, but do the radiation in a different place. And it allowed me to do all the things. But there is an inner voice, right? I mean, leaving that maternal fetal medicine specialist in Chicago, like This is not who's going to give me the best care that I need. Doesn't mean this person isn't a great doctor. It's not the best doctor for me. And you have to listen to your gut and your head and heart and everything that, yourself is telling you.
I mean, honestly, and I think especially as women, we're like, sometimes like, God, send me a sign. And then we're like, oh, that's not it, but that's not it. You are so good at listening. And was it easy to spend, all that time away from your boys? No, but you also, like you said, I knew it was best for me, but also for my family. And that was the best thing for them right then.
Absolutely. And don't second guess yourself based on what you're reading or what someone else did, because everyone's situation is different. Everyone's needs are different. You need to do what you need to do for yourself and your family. And like at the end of the day, that's what matters the most.
Amy, one of the things I remember about you in college was your quiet confidence. And I still think while you're very successful, you have this energy of confidence. You have the way you carry yourself, confidence. Is that something that was ingrained in you, or do you think you had to develop it? Do you remember being confident early on, or did you have to dig deep, or was there something?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's something that was in me. However, it's something I worked hard at developing. And I'll say like the first place I started earning that was in one of my first full-time professional roles. And I was selected to be on the speakers bureau for Nielsen Research and go and speak in front of large conferences, rooms with hundreds of people in them. And I received professional coaching. Like they sent me to a speaking coach and they tore me down and built me back up, right? Like exposed all the all the, what are you doing with your hands? So it created a lot of self-awareness, the confidence, right? And it's belief in yourself, right? So if you're whatever it is that you do that you are best at in life, like have the confidence that you're a subject matter expert. Like, this better than a lot of people. So come across, like, stand up and be strong and show that you have confidence in yourself, right?
Yes.
You don't believe in yourself. No one else is going to, for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then obviously we have number 3. So
yes. So this was, let's see, 2022. So fairly recent. Back at everything starts at this dang gynecologist's office. It's not always the same things. I'm really thankful for them because they help me avoid some big major catastrophes. But so it's getting a breast exam. My doctor's like, "What is this on your upper abdomen?" And she's like, "Was this here before?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think it was. Was it this big?" Like, I don't know. Well, I'd like for you to get this checked out as soon as possible, again, with the urgency of time. So turns out I had a mole that had been there for a long time, but it started changing. And indeed, it was melanoma. And so I went into a dermatologist and they did a biopsy and yes, melanoma. And I don't really know that much about skin cancers or anything. It's really scary. And if it gets into your cells and deep into your cells and your organs or your lymph nodes, like it's bad news. Lucky again that it was contained and they were able to remove all of it. Well, no, I had to go back and get a deeper amount of tissue removed. But again, I did not have to have radiation or chemo with the melanoma, thank goodness. Like PSA for all your routine medical needs here, get your skin checked also. Right?
Oh, exactly. I was like, you are an example of like, just do your annual exam, do your mammogram, do your skin check once a year. Like,
do all of it. Yeah, and none of this, folks, like I don't have a history of cervical cancer, breast cancer, melanoma. I think my dad had some kind of basal cell carcinoma, like a different noma, but not melanoma, not breast cancer, right? So cancer's random. It can happen. Like just be on top of your health, right?
right. Is
take
there,
care of yourself.
since you circle back to the same doctor, is there anything that he is led to believe that, was there a point where you're like, what am I doing? Or is there something in the water I'm drinking? Or is there, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, there are risk factors for cancers. And at the time of all three of these, I was really heavy, like quite obese, and carrying well over 100 pounds extra weight. And, phrase number two that I just subscribe to after never panic is control what you can control. And while I couldn't control any of these, like what I can control is my health. So I've always been a strong person and like fairly healthy in that I really wasn't very sick ever, but carrying extra weight was taking a toll on me, right? Like my body wasn't balanced. I was taking a hard toll on my joints. And so I underwent bariatric surgery, but at the same time, like totally changed what I'm putting in my body and to complement what I'm putting in my mind, right? Like,
yeah,
to
absolutely.
feed both. And I wasn't feeding my body the right things. So I do think that has a lot to do with it. I wasn't eating super healthy. I was, working a ton, at 3 kids, like nonstop. I'd get the quick preservative loaded snacks and be on my way. And the surgery was a reset. The surgery was a tool, but I've completely changed my nutrition and what I'm taking in. And I lost over 150 pounds, and I'm now at a normal BMI. Right. So I lost a person for all of you out there.
Wow.
What? I can't imagine. Yes, I was carrying around like a whole person. I can't even, right? Like we ordered a big raft for our lake house that weighed 100 pounds. I couldn't even lift it, but I was carrying like that plus that and a half around every day. So like shedding that weight, it gave me like just completely renewed life. Like I'm doing Pilates now. I love going hiking with my kids. I can be active with my kids. So like it was life changing. Like, and I can't even express like how much it was, just beyond what I can express in words.
Along with that, have you done some other things as far as maybe taking a look at priorities? I know you worked a lot. Do you feel like you are finding some work-life balance now with all of this that you've gone through, or any of the things that you...
Completely, right? I recently changed jobs, and one of the criteria as I'm looking at new career paths is like how much travel. My last job had 50% travel. That's a lot. It takes me away from my kids, gets me out of my routine. Like I look at you guys, and I know you travel a lot too, and I'm always like, gosh, they just totally are so committed and they stick to the routine. They take their stuff with them. I was not that person. I wasn't doing a great job of it. But yeah, I mean,
But now you do. But
now I do, right? And before we hopped on this call, we were talking about like that balance, and did I take time off between jobs, and would my kids remember if I had like a month off and we did all kinds of fun stuff, or if I picked the right job that allowed me to spend really quality time with them every single day, and we had a completely different relationship, right? Because they're 11, they're going to be 12. I don't know how many, like that window is going to shut. They're not going to want to hang out with me for however long till they get older and then want to be around me all the time, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, but it's the latter, right? Like picking the job that allows you to, again, prioritize your family, prioritize your health, be present, right? And that's a habit and a mindset, right? Like being truly present.
And that is the thing that I appreciate the most about seeing you go through all of this is your mindset. Like you said, you've never panicked. And you also didn't get 100 people's opinions. You didn't ask everybody about bariatric surgery. You did what was right for you. It was a different doctor, a different procedure. It's been the best thing you've ever done. But it wasn't like, oh, okay, now I'm just going to eat less. No, your entire mindset behind food and the way it fuels you is completely different, which it had to be. It had to be.
It had to be, right? Like the surgery isn't the fix, and then I go back to eating fried chicken.
Exactly.
No, not at all. In fact, I have to eat so much protein, and everybody eat your protein, get a ton in, but I have to eat even more right? Because of how my body processes and digests and absorbs nutrients, taking supplements, making sure that I'm nourishing my body every day. If I don't, then I feel awful. I don't have the energy to do what I need to do.
Yes, and you mentioned Pilates, so I know you are doing like strength training, right? The older we get, so you're doing like focusing on core and strength with
And
some of the,
flexibility, right? Like, we all still look 29 clearly, but
yeah.
sometimes our joints say otherwise.
Exactly. And
Right.
and I know you always wanted to go to Pilates, Amy, but you like, I know we say, oh, it's for anybody and everybody, but you're like, no, I'm physically not able, that it won't support me. And how can I move with all this 150 pounds of extra body weight?
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe if I were 40 over 50 or like at most, but like I just would not have been able to support my body weight with some of the moves and just balance, right? Like it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
So it was just a self-fulfilling, like downward spiral, honestly. Like
Right.
I had to make a meaningful, lasting change in my life. And I'm so proud of myself that I did that for myself, for my boys, my husband, like everything.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the boys are 11 years old. So you have, you only have 18 summers with your babies, they say. And so,
Oh,
Molly, you're over halfway done. I hate to say that to
I
you,
know.
but what do the next 8 summers look like for you, or 7 summers look like for you? Where do you see things? I know you just bought this lovely lake house that you're spending more
Yeah.
time in.
We're spending more time there. So, Tom and I made the decision to not wait until we're retired to buy the lake house.
Yes.
And Molly and Amy, I don't think we've talked about this book, but it's called Die with Zero. I don't know if you've read it.
Okay, I have
read it?
goosebumps.
I know.
Somebody else just mentioned this to me. Okay.
Okay, yeah, please read it. So it's all about like people save in their 401ks, like please like do your 401k, do all the matching, all that.
Right.
But saving everything to when you're like 70 or 80 years old and you're going to travel the world, like there's no guarantee of that. And I have had so many wake up calls between like the 3 cancers, all of that, that like, man, I'm enjoying every day that I am blessed to be on this earth. And so buying this lake house so we can get away as a family, get my boys off of those dang tablets and play in the dirt and catch some fish and go on the boat together. Like that makes lasting memories. And the relationship that we're building as a family is more important than any pile of money or whatever that I think I'm going to have when I'm 70 or 80 years old and not even knowing if I have the physical or mental capacity to enjoy it, right? So, right, live your life, do it responsibly, right? Still like make sure you have a nest egg and you're able to live a nice long life, but don't miss out on life now because you think you're going to live it better later.
There is no U-Haul behind a hearse.
No, can't take it with you.
Right.
And I don't know, like I hope my sons are wildly successful and they don't need any of my money.
And they will
That's
be.
the goal.
I know. Trust
They
me.
will be.
Trust me. They will be. Amy, I love that. And that's such great wisdom. And honestly, that really leads us to our very last question. And that is, what is living in the penthouse for you? We say, what does penthouse living mean to Amy Joyce?
For me, how I've lived my life is I've been open to new experiences, right? I moved away from Lincoln when I was 24 and moved to a place I didn't know anybody for a job. And then I made several more moves for a job. Moved to Boston, I didn't know anyone, but guess what? I met the love of my life there. And so for me, it means being open to new experiences, saying yes. And the penthouse to me also is like you're seeing a lot of things, right? Your view of the world is broad and, you get out of your bubble, right? I'm not seeing what's immediately around me, but I'm seeing a lot of other things that shape our world. And that's what it means to me.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all these years of friendship, most importantly.
Oh, thank you too. I love you guys.
And your wisdom, like Amy, you're always my steadfast friend that is just like you said. I mean, you don't panic and you purposely pivot successfully over and over again. So thanks for joining us in the penthouse, sister. And I mean it.
Anytime.
I know. And thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for listening with us today. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in today for Meet Me in the Penthouse with sisters Amy and Molly. Please rate and review. We love those 5-star ratings and would love to have you go to our website at sistersnextdoor.com.